live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Yes, it is. Thanks for joining us on 2 News Live. I'm Brian Schnee. Great to be with you on this fine Monday, September 18th, going in depth on a couple different higher profile cases here in Utah right now. Remember Kouri Richins? We're talking about what's going on with that in Summit County, and also the latest with our 2 YouTubers, Ruby Frankie and Jodi Hildebrandt, who had scheduled hearings today in a number of facets. We'll get to in just a moment. Before we get there, though, let's take a look at the headlines that you can find on our website, KUTV.com. Here's a big one. Utah House Speaker Brad Wilson resigning from the state legislature. His last day as Speaker will be November 15th. Davis County Republican now teasing that he will make a special announcement September 27th. Many of us seem to have an idea what that will be. The founder of Exodus, a Utah nonprofit anti-human trafficking organization, has been arrested on 30 felony charges, more than 30, including fraud, theft, and forgery. A court document says Candace Laird, formerly known as Candace Rivera, used financial accounts for Exodus to buy a house, a classic car, and a lot of that money donated to that nonprofit is missing. Happening now, it's Rail Safety Week. UDOT, UTA, and other police agencies all across the state are joining up to encourage the public to make safer decisions around tracks and trains. Also in our headlines tonight, Utah is the 3rd best state for teachers to work and to live in, according to a new study known as 2023's Best and Worst Teachers or States for Teachers. They found the average starting salary for teachers was 3rd in the nation. As we go in depth tonight on a number of topics, you can always get in touch with us throughout the show. Use the hashtag 2NewsLive. You can join our conversation there. We hope you will join us. You can always find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We're in a number of places. So just send DMs there. Slide on in. We'll respond. All right, a high-profile legal case. We've talked about this one. The Camus author accused of killing her husband, now facing accusations of witness tampering. The allegations come after a handwritten letter from Kouri Richins became public. Now, Richens is the author who wrote a children's book about processing grief. Paul Nelson has read the letter in question. He breaks it down. Paul, what is the prosecutor saying about all of this, and how did all of this come to light?
Well, all this came to light when this letter here was found. This is called the walk the dog letter. That's what it's being dubbed because it says right on the top in big letters, just walk the dog. So this was the letter that caused all this uproar. Now in this, there is this narrative that comes out where Kouri Richins makes the claims that her late husband, Eric, that he was addicted to drugs, that he would make frequent trips to Mexico to get pain pills, and that he would get high all the time with her brother. And that is the thing that apparently is being discussed in this, is that this letter was written to her mother that said that that is what her brother needs to actually say when he talks about the case, that, you know, he was addicted to drugs and that he would actually get high with Eric Richens. And they're trying to make the case that the death was an accidental overdose. That was what was claimed all along. And so that's what's happening here. Now, the prosecutors say that this particular letter, there is no connection, according to them, connecting Eric Richens and drugs from Mexico. So they're saying that this is actually false, and they believe that Richens is actually trying to convince people to lie in order to get, you know, out of trouble when it comes to these murder charges that she's facing. That's according to the prosecutors.
What sort of long-term impact could this have, Paul, when you talk to some folks today? I mean, does this get thrown out of evidence? Does this get used against? Where does this fall in to the lines of this case that has kind of taken the back seat in a way because attorneys needed extra time for discovery? They need the time to kind of put together their arguments and such and to gather some facts. So where does this fit in?
Well, actually, the defense attorney, because of this letter, she wants the prosecutors to be sanctioned and to be found in contempt. The defense says this letter was in an envelope addressed to the defense attorney, Sky Lazaro. That made it so it was confidential information. It was supposed to be privileged, and they believe that the prosecutors should never have made it public in the first place. And she also claims that the prosecutors made it public in a way that would actually draw more attention to the letter than by regular means. For example, example, if they had attached this to the order of no contact between Richens and her mother, that would have been less conspicuous than just posting this as its own individual item. And so that's what the defense attorney is asking for, that the prosecutors be sanctioned, be found in contempt, and they make the claim this in absolutely no way should have been made public. Now, I spoke to some people independently outside of this case. They kind of agree that this letter realistically was supposed to be privileged information and shouldn't have been released, and they do question the method and how it was released to the public. Back to you.
Paul Nelson live for us tonight. Paul, I'm not an attorney, but I've watched enough TV shows where someone plays one. One would think this would have to be privileged information and probably should not have been put out there. But who am I to judge at this point? We'll continue to follow the case. Of course, bringing new developments on air and online because this is not going away. It's a very intriguing case. A lot of people all over the country have taken a look at this and taken an interest into what is happening here on this case here in Utah and others. But you can find all of our past reporting, some court documents. All of that is posted online, KUTV.com and the 2 News mobile app. Let's go in depth in southern Utah tonight on another high-profile case, right? Just kind of getting started here. Bail hearing for Ruby Frankie and Jodi Hildebrandt scheduled for this morning in St. George. Postponed just hours before it was supposed to start. Jim Spiewak was there. He was well rested. He was ready to go for a big day. And he joins us now with what made this decision happen.
According to the Utah court system, it was the attorneys who filed a continuance in this case. That's why the court hearing here in St. George was postponed earlier today, because attorneys needed more time to go through the sheer volume of discovery documents and continue to review them before they could come to a next hearing status. Now, as for the case, the hearing that was supposed to be set here today, it was set to happen at 11 in the morning, and both Ruby Frankie and Jodi Hildebrandt were supposed to be here in person. Now, we did learn about the postponement from the order document that was taped to the glass at the entrance here to the court when we arrived earlier this morning. We have learned that once the hearing is set in the future, the judge will weigh whether or not the women are at risk of fleeing or pose any sort of risk to the community. We did have a chance to talk with the deputy here at the courthouse earlier today, who says that there's certainly a huge amount of interest locally in this case. We also talked with the St. George resident who is retired from Child and Family Services out of Montana. He says that he saw a lot of child abuse cases during his time working in that role, and he said that these types of cases can really be hard on a community. The 2 women were arrested back on August 31st for child abuse after police alleged 2 children in their custody were found malnourished and neglected. The next hearing in this case, according to the court system, is scheduled to happen sometime after October 5th. However, we do not have the exact date for when it will be set. We're reporting in St. George today. Jim Spiewak, KUTV 2 News.
All right, thank you, Jim. Continuing our coverage tonight on this, Ruby and Kevin Frankie, that's her husband, in court today for a welfare case involving their children's future. Cameras were not allowed inside the courtroom today. This is a juvenile case in juvenile court. Ruby Frankie's attorney mentioned that she would be in, quote, jail for the, quote, foreseeable future, rather. After the hearing, for the first time, we spoke to Kevin Frankie's attorney, Randy Kester, asking questions about when he separated from his wife, the future of their children. There are a lot of questions at play here, given the child abuse allegations. Kester says Kevin and Ruby have been separated for about 14 months. It's a time frame that we've also kind of been looking at as well. For today's hearing, the judge asked for the discussion to be focusing on scheduling out proceedings. She also talked about a pending motion to seal this case, which would indeed close this to the public, which is not out of question here. We've got kids at play. This is a very unique situation where you have both of these going on at once. Virginia Blanchard, who represents the children in the case, says that sealing the case is really in their best interest. We'll continue to follow the decisions in this case. The reason why this case is so intriguing is because Ruby made some interesting comments in the first hearing. There was a report out about that, so that is where a lot of Jodi Hildebrandt's comments to me came from. Speaking of, Jodi Hildebrandt named in a number of American Fork Police Department reports. Some involved Jodi reaching out to police to report suspicious activity. That included stalking reports, property damage. I looked through most of these, but the reports that pertain to Jesse's allegations are also outlined in a report filed in March 2010. Take a listen. That report starts with Jodi's niece contacting police and inquiring about a safe house. At the time, Jesse was under 18 and not only living with Jodi, but Jodi was also her counselor. Keep in mind, this is from early 2010. Jessie told me she began living with Jodi in 2009, which is also in the report. Jessie's parents sent her to Utah to live with Jodi because there were problems at home. As Jessie told me last week, she details having to sleep outside. She also said Jodi would not allow her to talk and has at one point placed duct tape over her mouth so she would not talk. According to the report, Jessie couldn't provide an exact date and time of when this took place. Police attempted to contact Jodi several times but couldn't reach her, so they got in touch with Jessie's parents. According to one of her parents, the reason Jessie contacted police was to get out of being sent to a wilderness program. The report ends with a recommendation to have a copy forwarded to DCFS. There's also another report filed by Jodi when Jessie ran away from her care just a few weeks later.
She wanted to make my life, and this is like her quote, like this is what she would tell me all of the time. She wanted to make my life so uncomfortable that it would force the sin out, that it would force me to confess. So things continuously got worse and worse and progressively more and more intense as a way to get me to confess, because she believed that if I had confessed everything, if all of my sins were out and in the open, that I would be getting better. And I was declining like very fast, exponentially. And so she just kept ramping it up.
That report says that Jessie ended up at a shelter in Salt Lake City. She was located weeks later and went to live with her grandparents. So there are a number of documents here that we were looking through today. That report there kind of just outlines two of them, a runaway and a family problems. But there are a number of other things that we're going to work on writing up a nice article for you that you can find on our website, KUTV.com, that kind of outline a little bit more there. If you missed the conversation you see on your screen with Jessie, we shared it with you last Monday. A lot of people have seen it. It goes into a greater detail about these allegations. Keep in mind, Jessie is now 14 years older, I believe, than when she made this report back in 2010 about those allegations. So a lot has changed, a lot of perspective. And if you'd like to hear how she speaks about some of these situations, you can find this on our YouTube page too. It's in our 8 Passengers playlist where you can find all of our coverage on this case. Let's talk about some weather here, because you know what? Selfishly, I enjoyed the weekend. I hate saying it's nice because I know that not everywhere in the state is always nice.
I would
at the
say
same
the majority
time.
of Utahns would agree with you.
I'd like to think
how nice the weather
It was so nice. And then as we were talking about 2 News at 4, right? I go, oh, what a nice weekend, or what a nice time right here. And then I realized there are storms moving through certain parts of the area. So
yeah, pretty hit or miss today.
Right.
We might do that again for tomorrow, but all eyes on our next potential significant storm by the end of the week.
Let's
break down these rain chances. Brian, you're going to help me. Can we go back to 3D? We were going to talk about those rain chances, if that's possible. Those rain chances are increasing for just a couple days. And take a look.
There we go.
They're right around 20% for your Monday and Tuesday. But towards the end of the week, though, we'll still see a few more. And then Friday's the day, Brian.
So 60%, I'm about 80%.
Yeah, I'm about 50.
Now I'm about 70. Okay, I get it. Hey, look at it. I mean, that's a great perspective to look at it, because dry. We've been fairly dry for the last few days here in parts of the Wasatch Front. Right. So it's kind of up and down roller coaster as we change the seasons.
That's right, and it's going to feel a lot more like fall. Now, will it last? Are we going to have that cool weather for several days? That's the big question, and I got those answers, so let's get right to your forecast. The storm system that's going to be moving in is coming from the Pacific Northwest, and that's why it's got that cooler air mass, and it's going to be diving right into northern Utah. Now, by Wednesday, it's over the Pacific Northwest. So that means our winds are going to be increasing out of the southwest. So get ready for a pretty gusty day. There might be more of those stray thunderstorms in the mountains, especially by Thursday as the main part of the storm gets closer to Utah. And then eventually, the main thing moves right through the northern half of the state. I don't think we're going to get a whole lot down in southern Utah. You're going to have a dip in temperatures and a bit of wind, but right now most of the rain and maybe some mountain snow moves in north of I-70. Then it's out of here by the weekend. Now, it might be a little cool on Saturday, but this ridge of high pressure expands by the end of the weekend and into early next week, so I do think those temperatures are going to rebound. It might be cool or sweater weather just for a couple days. We have a few of those lingering showers and storms, especially across portions of central Utah. A little bit of rain along I-70. We've had some rain across northeastern Utah, and that's where most of the activity is. A few storms rolled through the Salt Lake Valley a couple hours ago. Now they're in the Wasatch Back and over the mountains, pushing into the high Uintas. There's a little bit of rain to our west out in Nevada. Nevada. We'll see if that can make it to the Wasatch Front. We might have a couple light showers later tonight, especially south of Salt Lake. We'll definitely see the cloud cover roll in, so hopefully a beautiful sunset. But again, a little bit of rain possible tonight. Tomorrow morning, though, will be dry. We still have a little bit of moisture out there, so more of those stray thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon. Only over the northern Utah. I-70 south. Sunny skies for your Tuesday. So St. George, we're going to be in the upper 80s, a few more clouds rolling in, but no rain. Now Thursday is going to be your windiest day, and then Friday we drop into the upper 70s with those overnight lows cooling off into the mid 50s. The weekend looks fantastic in St. George, 80 on Saturday and 85 degrees on Sunday. Salt Lake, 83 for tomorrow, a little bit warmer on Wednesday at 85 degrees. Again, winds kicking up, few storms possible Thursday, especially later in the day on Thursday. And then we got that valley rain on Friday as we dip into the mid 60s. A little bit of a fall wake up for us. Still a little cool on Saturday, but still really nice in the upper 60s. I'll get a lot of questions though. Are we going to see our first freeze? That is not in the forecast. So your veggie gardens are going to be just fine. We'll be in the mid 40s. Now, maybe Cache Valley dipping into the mid 30s. Park City as well, getting close to freezing. But right now I don't really see it happening.
Nice temperatures, though. I mean, I'm totally into the 3D graphics, by the way. I'm team
They're
3D
fun.
here. Bring them back.
Yeah.
Bring them back. This looks great here as we make our way into the change there of the seasons, Chase.
But
Thank
warmer
you.
by next week.
Yep.
So just a few days.
All right. Well, we'll take it one day at a time, as we do here on 2 News Live. Thanks for joining us. Once again, we're back tomorrow. More in-depth conversations. He's Chase. I'm Brian. See ya.